Resident Evil 4, baby. This game is considered by many, including yours truly, to be a straight-up classic. We're talking about the kind of game that sends shivers down your spine one minute and has you laughing at its cheesy dialogue the next. So, buckle up, grab your favorite snacks, and let's break down exactly why Resident Evil 4 is still a masterpiece, even after all these years. Let's do this next. So, buckle up, grab your favorite snacks, and let's break down exactly why Resident Evil 4 is still a masterpiece, even after all these years. Let's do this! Alright, first things first, we gotta talk about the gameplay. Resident Evil 4 didn't just dip its toes into the pool of innovation, it did a cannonball right into the deep end. Remember those clunky tank controls from the older Resident Evil games? Yeah, this game said, nah fam, we're going over the shoulder, and let me tell you, that over-the-shoulder perspective was a game changer. Suddenly, you felt like you were right there with Leon, aiming down the sights of that trusty handgun, taking down those creepy villagers one headshot at a time. Speaking of villagers, can we just take a moment to appreciate how freaky those guys were? The way they chanted, Los Illuminados, still gives me goosebumps to this day. But hey, at least they provided some quality target practice, right? But it wasn't just the shooting that made the gameplay so addictive. Remember that time you first encountered the chainsaw ganado? Yeah, that was terrifying. But it also forced you to think strategically, to use your environment to your advantage, to dodge and weave like a pro. And that's what made Resident Evil 4 so brilliant. It seamlessly blended action and horror in a way that few games had ever done before. You never knew what to expect around each corner, whether it was a horde of infected villagers, a terrifying boss battle, or, you know, a friendly merchant with a suspicious amount of firepower. What more could you ask for in a game? Okay, let's talk about the atmosphere in this game, because holy moly, Capcom really outdid themselves here. From the moment you step foot into that creepy Spanish village, you just know something's not right. The air is thick with tension, the villagers are giving you the side-eye, and you can practically hear the chanting of cultists in the distance. And then, there's the sound design. The creaking of doors, the rustling of leaves, the distant screams. It all comes together to create an immersive and unforgettable experience. I swear, I spent half the game with my headphones on, just soaking in the atmosphere. And let's not forget about the lighting. Resident Evil 4 was a masterclass in using light and shadow to create a sense of dread and unease. Those flickering lanterns, the way your flashlight would illuminate a single enemy in the darkness, it was pure genius. But it wasn't all jump scares and creepy crawlies. Resident Evil 4 also had its fair share of epic moments. Remember that first time you saw the castle, or that incredible fight against El Gigante? Those moments were visually stunning and really showcased the power of the GameCube hardware, or whatever platform you played it on. Honestly, the atmosphere in Resident Evil 4 is something else. It's a perfect blend of horror, action, and just the right amount of campiness. Now let's talk about the enemies in Resident Evil 4, because let's be real, they're the real stars of the show. From those creepy villagers to the iconic regenerators, Resident Evil 4 had a rogues gallery of baddies that were as memorable as they were terrifying. Remember those first few encounters with the Ganados? They were like the zombies' cooler Spanish cousins. They were fast, they were aggressive, and they had a nasty habit of dodging your bullets. Plus, they had those creepy eyes that just stared right into your soul. And then, there were the bosses. Oh boy, the bosses. El Gigante, the Del Lago, Bitores Mendez, each boss fight was a unique and challenging experience that pushed your skills to the limit. And let's not forget about Ramon Salazar, the vertically challenged villain with a Napoleon complex and a penchant for giant statues. But what really made the enemies in Resident Evil 4 so special was their AI. These weren't your typical brain-dead zombies. These guys would flank you, dodge your attacks, and even work together to try and take you down. It made every encounter feel tense and unpredictable, and it forced you to stay on your toes. Honestly, the enemies in Resident Evil 4 were a masterclass in enemy design. They're a big part of what makes this game so replayable, because you never know what kind of nightmare fuel you're going to encounter next. Alright, let's be real, the story in Resident Evil 4 isn't exactly Shakespeare. It's cheesy, it's over the top, and it's full of plot holes you could drive a truck through. But you know what? It's also incredibly entertaining. I mean, come on, you've got Leon Kennedy, the rookie cop from Resident Evil 2, all grown up and sporting a sweet new haircut, on a mission to rescue the president's daughter from a creepy cult in rural Spain. What's not to love? Sure, the dialogue can be a bit cringeworthy at times, where's everyone going, bingo? But it's all part of the game's charm. And let's be real, we all secretly love a good cheesy one-liner, right? But beyond the cheesy dialogue and B-movie plot, there's actually a surprisingly engaging story here. You've got government conspiracies, ancient cults, and a parasitic infection that turns people into mindless killing machines. It's like a Dan Brown novel mixed with a John Carpenter film. And then there are the characters. Leon is easily one of the most badass protagonists in gaming history. He's cool under pressure, he's got a dry wit, and he can rock a bomber jacket like nobody's business. Sure, the story in Resident Evil 4 might not be winning any awards for originality, but it's a wild ride from start to finish. It's the perfect blend of action, horror, and campy fun, and it's a big part of what makes this game so memorable. Alright, let's talk about level design because Resident Evil 4 absolutely nailed it in this department. From the creepy villages to the gothic castles, every environment in this game is a work of art. Remember that first time you stepped foot into the village? The way the houses were all boarded up, the eerie silence, the feeling that you were being watched. It was the perfect introduction to the game's world. And then there's the castle. Oh, the castle. This place was like something out of a gothic horror novel. The towering walls, the winding corridors, the hidden chambers. It was a labyrinth of secrets and surprises. But it wasn't just the environments themselves that were so impressive. It was the way they were designed. Resident Evil 4 was a masterclass in using level design to create tension and suspense. Remember those narrow corridors where you just knew an enemy was going to jump out at you? Or those open courtyards where you had to fight off hordes of infected villagers? Every area in the game was designed to keep you on edge. Honestly, the level design in Resident Evil 4 is some of the best I've ever seen in a video game. It's atmospheric, it's challenging, and it's just plain fun to explore. It's a big part of what makes this game so immersive and unforgettable. Okay, let's talk about replayability, because Resident Evil 4 has it in spades. This is one of those games that you can come back to again and again, and you'll still find something new to enjoy. First off, there are multiple difficulty settings, so you can tailor the challenge to your liking. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or a newcomer to the series, there's a difficulty setting for you. And then there are the unlockables. Resident Evil 4 is packed with bonus content that you can unlock by completing certain challenges or finding hidden secrets. We're talking about new costumes for Leon, new weapons, even entire bonus modes. Speaking of bonus modes, have you ever played the Mercenaries? This mode is pure arcade action, pitting you against waves of enemies in a race against the clock. It's the perfect way to test your skills and see how long you can survive. And then there's New Game Plus. This mode lets you start a new game with all of your weapons, upgrades, and costumes from your previous playthrough. But honestly, the biggest reason to replay Resident Evil 4 is simply because it's so much fun. Alright, let's talk legacy, because Resident Evil 4 didn't just revolutionize the survival horror genre, it left a lasting impact on the entire gaming industry. This game was a trendsetter, and its influence can still be felt today. First off, let's talk about that over-the-shoulder camera perspective. Before Resident Evil 4, third-person shooters were all about clunky tank controls and fixed camera angles. But Resident Evil 4 showed the world that there was a better way, and the gaming industry took notice. After Resident Evil 4, countless games adopted the over-the-shoulder perspective, from Gears of War to Dead Space to The Last of Us. It's become the standard for third-person action games, and it's all thanks to Resident Evil 4. But it wasn't just the camera that made Resident Evil 4 so influential. The game's blend of action and horror, its intense boss battles, its memorable characters. All of these elements have been borrowed and iterated on by countless other games. And then there's the game's impact on the survival horror genre itself. Resident Evil 4 helped to revitalize the genre, proving that horror games could be both scary and fun. It's a true classic that continues to inspire and influence developers to this day.